Hello, I am Amber Miller, your host for Thursdays with AARP Wisconsin. Thank you so much for joining us. As just a friendly reminder, if you are looking for additional information about AARP Wisconsin, please visit aarp.org/WI. Please also remember that AARP Friendly Voice Initiative, it is free, open to all ages, and you do not need to be an AARP member. But what you could do is put a request in for yourself or for a loved one to receive a phone call from one of our trained AARP volunteers, because as we know, it's nice to hear a friendly voice on the other end. So you can find additional information about this at the aarpcommunityconnections.org or by calling 1-888-281-0145. We would love also if you would consider volunteering with us. Our volunteers make such a huge impact within our community, and we're always looking for additional volunteers to join us at the AARP Wisconsin family. So if you're interested in advocacy, outreach, presenting, there are many opportunities for you, and you can find those at the website below, which is aarp.org/I want the number 2. So I want to volunteer. If you go to that website, you'll find information about volunteering with AARP. And then also you can fill out an online application, which comes directly to our state office, and we will reach out to you. So once again, you can find that information at the website below or at the AARP Wisconsin website. So today, we always love to talk about anything to do with livable communities, which is one of the AARP initiatives. So today I'm excited to welcome Jana Lynott, who is our Senior Strategic Policy Advisor with AARP Public Policy Institute of Livable Communities team. She has a very long title, but every time she comes to visit us on the show, she always has such great information. So welcome, Jana.
Thank you so much, Amber, for having me back.
Absolutely. And I know, Jana, you are coming to us from our national office. I know we're having just a slight audio kind of issue, but we definitely can hear you. We're going to try to get through the show. But I know today you're going to be talking about the AARP Livable Index, which people might be watching this now thinking, what is that? I've never heard of that. So if we could start off by, if you could just maybe tell us what that is.
Well, sure. So our AARP Livability Index is really the nation's first neighborhood level broad-based index. And the reason we call it a neighborhood livability index is that we score every neighborhood and community in the United States against 61 indicators of livability. And those cover the gamut. So we're looking at things like the housing indicators, neighborhood design, transportation, environment, health, engagement, and opportunity. So it's really an exciting and powerful tool.
And Jana, I know that it was just revamped. If you could talk a little bit about what the changes are. I actually just went on it recently. I was like, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. But if you could talk maybe why the updates and the changes.
Sure. So, we continually want to make this index a tool that's accessible to more and more people. So one of the things we did is we completely revamped the website to try to bring some of the information more forward so that people could find it more easily. But also as part of that, we updated all but 5 of our indicators in the index, and that is no small feat. And so there's a lot of more recent good information to better understand your community with. We also added a new indicator on accessory dwelling units. And this is a measure of whether there's state policy that is supportive and encourages the construction of what are called accessory dwelling units. These are also referred to as granny flats, but they're small units that are built within the single family home or on that property. And they really can help to increase housing options and affordability for members of the community.
And Jana, why would somebody use this? What would intrigue them to be like, oh, maybe I should go on this livability index? Why would somebody use this?
So people are using it for a lot of different purposes. So we recently formed a partnership with the National Association of Realtors to share our scores through their website that they have with their network of realtors. So it's an excellent tool if you are looking to relocate your home in a new community. You can go on there and really get a lot of great information about the neighborhood and about the community before you would actually, go and visit. It is also being used by our network of age-friendly states and communities to help with some of that baseline assessment and really kind of looking at the progress over time. Are we becoming more livable? And the kind of ways that the types of investments our communities are making. And then it's used by researchers from many university academic communities who request our data to better understand what are the ties between things like livability and health. So lots and lots of uses.
And Jana, is there a way on the livability index where you could pull up like two locations at one time to compare and contrast kind of two neighborhoods or two cities?
There is, and in fact, I think if we can pull up the index right at this point, it might be the easiest for people just to see it.
Absolutely.
And get familiarity. So this is when you log into aarp.org /livability index. You can enter a community name. We're entering Middleton here because Middleton is Wisconsin's top performing community in the livability index. So go Middleton. And if we scroll down just a bit, the results page show you the total score for the community. Here, Middleton scores a 65 on a scale of 0 to 100, where 50 is the midpoint. On the right rail, there's a bit of information about demographics. And then if you scroll down further, you can see the results by category. I mentioned these 7 categories of livability. And here you can see that Middleton is really across the board scoring above average compared to the national average, doing really well on transportation, health, opportunity. And then with each of these, you can click on the metrics. So let's click on metrics under opportunity, scroll down a little bit, and you can see how the first column shows the specific indicators that we measure under opportunity. The second is the performance of the community in 2015. Then we move forward to 2022, so you get that comparison. And then comparison to the national average. So Middleton is doing well on income inequality. It's outperforms slightly other parts of the country. It has a good opportunity to jobs, a really phenomenally high school graduation rate, and above average age diversity in the community. So then if we go back up a bit, this is just an example, and you can click through all of these things. Oh, one more thing I should show you. If you go, I'm sorry, go back down just a moment. Anywhere you see just a little bit more, so if you click on, I'm sorry, if you go down to the opportunity again, those metrics under opportunity, and click on just the I on the left-hand column, if you click on the I to the very left, you can get an understanding of what it is specifically that we're measuring with that indicator, because not all of these are clear just from the first look. Now, scrolling back up to the mapping tool, this tool allows you to see the performance on a map. And so you can open up any number of indicators and then map those. So let's map age diversity just as an example. And you can see that Middleton has greater age diversity than the surrounding areas. And as you zoom into that map, you can actually get more refinement down to that neighborhood level to see those differences across the neighborhood as well. Also click on high school graduation rate as an example and scroll out. And then you can start to see, this is an indicator at the school district level, but you can see there's some differences between Middleton and even the surrounding communities that are also have higher populations. So that's a fun tool to click around in. It's also really powerful if you're looking at doing any sort of equity analysis of who is really benefiting from livability within the community and who may need some more investments. So close that out and scroll down again. There is one thing here, just a little bit further up, customize your score. We won't click on that, but that allows you to personalize your score based on those categories of livability that are most important to you. And then if we scroll down again, we can compare Middleton to 2 other communities side by side. So in this case, let's enter Madison. Madison, Wisconsin made our nationwide top 10 list for mid-sized cities. And then let's also add La Crosse. And La Crosse is one of our age-friendly communities, part of that AARP network, which has made a commitment to making those investments to become more livable over time. And so then you can see that in terms of the overall score, Middleton actually slightly outperforms Madison, even though it doesn't make one of our nationwide top performing communities list. And that's true for a number of smaller communities in Wisconsin. We divide those lists by city size, and there's just so many more of those smaller communities in the United States, so a lot more competition to make that list. But then you can go in and do a side-by-side comparison by category. You can also dive deeper. So again, if we go down to opportunity and open up metrics under opportunity again and scroll down a bit, we can see the differences by the each of those indicators. So again, Middleton has, just even comparison to Madison, much higher high school graduation rates, just as an example. So that's really the Livability Index in a nutshell. It's a really fun tool to play around with and get into some friendly competition with your neighbors.
And Darren, I'm sorry. Could we put that back up? I just have a question before we get to our other questions. I do want to say, if you're watching this live, of course, please feel free to post any questions in the comments, and we're going to just get to them shortly. Darren, if you could just scroll down for a moment. So for instance, Jana, right here, I do not reside in Madison or Middleton, I reside in Milwaukee, but if I was to look at this, maybe thinking, I want to move to Madison or Middleton, what are some things I should look at? So for instance, for housing, if that scores low, or neighborhood or transportation, what are some things I should look at? And maybe if there's a way to, work with my local age-friendly network or my local municipalities on getting more information on how maybe things can get better.
Right. So let's take the example of housing. Let's open up housing. And if we can click on the metrics tab, scroll down a little bit and see the comparison side by side. Mm-hmm. It appears just that for 0-step entrances, this is kind of your basic level of accessibility in and out of the home. And that is a data point that we pull probably at the regional level, so that there's, each of these communities is performing the same there, and right around the national average. There's also, just in terms of the housing options, Middleton and Madison appear to have a greater number of multifamily housing units. So if you're ready to downsize, there are going to be more options in those communities to look at. Housing costs, there are some differences. With La Crosse having lower housing costs overall. And I should mention with this indicator, it's not really a measure of what it would cost to buy or rent into the community, because it's a measure of what current residents are paying today. And it's tempered by the number of subsidized housing units. It's tempered by people who already own their homes outright and no longer are paying on a mortgage. So that tends to bring those averages down. But as in terms of a nationwide index, it allows you to see the relative affordability across the board. Now, I might close back out of housing and just scroll down and see the look at, for instance, health. If we open up health, then we can see just in terms of how healthy are the residents in terms of their smoking and obesity prevalence. We can see access to exercise opportunities and whether there's a shortage of doctors. And luckily, none of these communities is reported to be in a healthcare professional shortage area. We can also look at the preventable hospitalization rate of the community. In patient satisfaction. So is the healthcare system keeping people out of the hospital because of good preventive care? So those are just examples of how you dive deeper using the index into some of the indicators that are going to be most important to you.
And then what is the policy button right next to the metrics?
Sure. So let's look at transportation policy, for instance. Open that up. So in addition, so the way the index scoring is done is that we score, first against these quantitative metrics. We have 40 of those, and then we have 21 policies or programs that can be adopted, put in place at the state or local level. So for instance, one of the policies that AARP has put in a lot of effort to try to get passed in states and communities, and even at the federal level, is what's called complete streets policies. And these are policies that really help to, design, maintain our street network for all users, so including safety for pedestrians and bicyclists. And so you can see that there's a county policy. Dane County has a policy in place, but then also Madison has put its own city level policy in place to match that. But at this point in time, Wisconsin does not have a state level policy. And I believe actually that policy was rescinded some years back. So that's really how to look at that policy.
Yeah, no, that's very great. So we will take, it looks like we have a couple of questions, Jana, that we're going to take. If we could pull up Reed's first. Reed is asking, how often are the metrics updated?
So we updated just this past month. So it's very recent data. Prior to that, our last update was in 2018. However, I will say that AARP now has funding to keep this up to date. And so we are looking at least annual updates as really our goal for moving forward. So I think it will continue to be a really useful tool over time.
Great. Thank you, Jana. And we have a question from Jim. It says, does the Livability Index measure average home prices and local tax rates so that those interested in moving to a community have a better idea if they can afford to live here?
So the housing cost metric does factor in all the housing costs that community members pay. So it factors in rents and mortgages and taxes and utilities, et cetera. So that is accounted for. But again, there is, because it is based on people who own their homes outright, in addition to people who are still paying a mortgage, and because it is tempered by whether there's subsidized housing, which brings overall, costs down for some, that those housing cost figures are going to be lower than what would actually be required if you were trying to move into a community fresh. So it's a good relative comparison for affordability, but it's not a good indicator for the actual price that you might pay.
Gotcha. And Darren, you're going to hate me if we could bring it up one more time. I'm sorry, I have one other question that just kind of popped up. Jana, on the far right side where it says improve your community on the right-hand side.
Oh, sure. That's
If we could click on that, Darren, if you could just walk through that, Jana, I'm intrigued by this.
I guess if it goes to there, did you click on improve your community? Is it not going there?
Up there.
Okay. Oh,
there it is.
Okay. So what this is it takes you to our carousel of resources. So we have resources that are specific to each of the categories of livability. So for transportation, we have a walk audit tool that you can actually, it's worksheets that you can go out with your neighbors or as part of a community organized session with elected officials, the media, et cetera, and actually do those audits of how safe are the streets and what do people feel when they are out on the street. And then if you scroll down some more, we have some other, or maybe it was above, I guess it's above. Not on this page, but there are other resources on the home page of the index that connect you to our, AARP.org livable site for more resources. There's specific resources off of our AARP Public Policy Institute. Yeah, and if you want to scroll down, we can show you what some of those are. Also, this page shows you the top performing communities if you're curious to see those as well.
So this right here is a really good starting point too for people who maybe have some additional questions that are watching this in replay to really start with this kind of front page.
Right. And so this front page, it takes you to a paper on the left that we did with Harvard that looks at kind of differences in who is benefiting from the most livable neighborhoods and who's not. And then we connect you to our Future of Housing page, which has a lot of housing resources, into our network of age-friendly states and communities.
Great. Jana, this is, I know we're kind of coming to the end of our show. I feel like stuff like this I get real excited about because it's revamped and beautiful, but especially if, for me, I know with the prior version, I just looked up my neighborhood. I'm like, well, let me see what's going on in my neighborhood and where we were exceeding and maybe where we were not meeting, even kind of bare bones. But I love this kind of information. I do hope our viewers go to the AARP Livability Index website and plug in their address or their city, compare yourself, but all of that really great resources and information is on there. Any last words, Jana, regarding the Livability Index?
No, I was going to say the same thing. Please visit the website. Great.
Jana, as always, you always come on with such great resources and information, and we thank you so much for being on today's show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And of course, we always like to plug upcoming events that might be of interest to you. Friday, May 6th, we have movies for grown-ups, planes, trains, and automobiles. May 11th, Fraud Watch Wednesdays, all about Medicare fraud. Also, May 11th, movies for grown-ups, The French Dispatch. And then May 13th, discover the safety benefits of new car technology. You can register for it below at that website or by calling the phone number. Small Dollar Big Impact, of course, we always talk about that. That is a grant that is available to local nonprofits, municipalities, and similar within the state of Wisconsin that you can apply for up to $1,000 grant to make impact within your local community. So thinking of, fun, innovative, out-of-the-box ideas for your community. Applications are due May 17th. You can go to the website below to get additional information, to fill out the application, or to see past winners. For next week's show, it's a little different, which we're excited about. So May 12th, you'll see my interview with one of our advocacy interns, Julia DeGiorgio. She has been with us for almost a year now, just talking about her perspective of advocacy. So we'd love to have you back here May 12th, next Thursday at noon. I want to thank, of course, Jana. Again, I want to thank you all for being with us, whether you're watching it live or in the replay. And I look forward to seeing you next Thursday. And until then,